Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 5th of February 2024. It's Gary here again, and well, I don't know if that weekend could have worked out any better for our beloved team, could it? Well, you know, with the result at Pittodrie, of course, and then and I was just saying to some folks in the club actually on the weekend that I didn't even know who they were playing. I didn't even know who they were going against. I knew they were going to be away from home, of course, because we ourselves are at home for 4 games in a row. But for them to go away, even if I knew it was Aberdeen, I would have said, oh well, it's just Aberdeen, and we know what Aberdeen do against them, which is pretty much a whole bunch of nothing. But it ended up working out in our favour, and my understanding is that Aberdeen had the better of the play as well, which is great in a number of ways. One, of course, it reduces the deficit at the top of the table. 2, hopefully they've exerted all their efforts and energies prior to heading down to Ibrox tomorrow night to play the world famous Glasgow Rangers as well. You know, looking at the league table now, folks, that's a lot more healthy. That's a lot more like it. Rangers, and of course, I think the caveat that I started to talk about last week was 1 game at a time. We're not exactly there yet, but this is a lot better than what we had. And if we've got an opportunity tomorrow night, if we win by 3 clear goals, that we would go top of the league for the first time this season as well. So I mean that's kind of material for us. As you start to look at things, we are 23 games in to the season, and we're at a spot when we're just hitting stride. As I've mentioned before on the pods over the last wee while, I've got that feeling back I had when Walter was there, where you just knew the team were going to find a way to get a result, whether it would be through an absolutely commanding performance or, kicking and scraping our way to getting the 3 points. And that's what Philippe Clement and his team have managed to get into us as well. So good for them. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work, guys, and let's not take our foot off the pedal. So to speak. We also had an opportunity to welcome just the one new signing in, and that was Oscar Cortez from, I think it was FC Lens, wasn't it? And he comes in to join, of course, Fabio Silva as another signing for us. So that was 3 in total that we had, of course. So that's good overall, I think, and we'll see that we've seen glimpses of the players now, and we'll get an opportunity to see what that looks like over the next wee while as the games come thick and fast. This will be our last full month here, I guess, without European football again, so we'll get a chance to give ourselves a wee bit more domestic experience and a little bit of momentum there prior to getting into the heyday and the heady lights of European football too. On to the game segment. So of course just the one game for us this last week, and it was Saturday's 3-0 home win against bottom of the table Livingston, who are having a hell of a season, aren't they? They're looking pretty much desperate down there as it is already. I think they're only about 8 points or so, something like that, away from Ross County at the bottom, but Ross County have 2 games in hand. Not a guarantee, of course, as we know that you would win the games automatically, but it's looking kind of dire for them, which is too bad. For some reason, I just like the Livingston story. I like their manager Martindale and his story as well. But when they're playing Rangers, I don't care about anybody else other than Rangers. And of course, we won this game through Fabio Silva's first goal of the season for Rangers. A big deflection there though, wasn't it? It might have still been going in, but we'll take that one. And then Rabbi Matondo. So the game was kind of mute, wasn't it, for probably about 35-40 minutes. We were plugging away, but we didn't have that inspiration there. And how often have we seen that? If that mob drops points and then we go out, and it should be an impetus for us. It should be. I know that they say you don't look at the other results and stuff. Of course you do. And then we kind of put in a flat, abject performance, and then you build onto that by playing Livingston, who are masters at frustration and the frustration game, really. And so we had kind of 35-40 minutes of patience, I guess you could say, and then we had the 2 goals in quick succession, a few minutes in between each of the goals. And Rabbi Matondo's goal was fantastic, a fantastic finish just on the stroke of half time as well. And then we had a Todd Cantwell finish kind of relatively early in the second half as well, and that was a brilliant strike as well. Initially I thought the goalkeeper made a bit of a mess of it, but when you see I just don't think the guy's seen it. You know, the way that Cantwell came in and almost didn't take any backlift and just smashed that home. So yeah, fantastic. A fairly routine game, I think, in the grand scheme of things, and we got what we expected, as I mentioned, from Livingston. And we'll just see what that looks like in terms of the overall season. It's one of these games, I think I've said a couple of times, probably maybe just before and just after the winter break, that we're never going to remember these games again, and I'm okay with that. If we look back on a championship winning season, we're not going to talk about the dirge that was kind of the first half of the Livingston game, or the kind of the mess that was the St Mirren game away last weekend, or anything like that. We're going to look at the highlights. We're going to look and know and appreciate and love, in fact, what we actually did when it mattered, and it matters, of course, in every single game. So the positives, the result, definitely another clean sheet, another game where we had 3 different goal scorers, and that's becoming quite a theme as well. So the goals are getting spread around there. Of course, the first goal for Silva, as I mentioned, everyone rotating the squad. I think this is really what we're starting to see, in terms of what the manager knows he's doing, and he's rotating the squad fantastically well. Even in the press conference today for the Aberdeen game for tomorrow, he'd said Ryan Jack is not going to feature tomorrow night. 2 games in quick succession is too much for him. He's been susceptible to injuries when that situation has happened before. So he just seems to get it and know and understand the limitations. Believe what the players are saying. I imagine that mostly every player wants to play, but just getting the body language, understanding the performance levels, and then just doing what's best for them. I think we used 6 substitutions, something like that, on the weekend as well. So this is great to see basically a masterclass in action. And I think, as I mentioned earlier there, the next step for us is to, in terms of milestones for the season, is to go and get that lead in this league, and then see how we react to that, see how they react to that. Of course, they're away in Edinburgh on I guess that's Wednesday, yeah, so we'd have a day in between. But Hibs aren't having a great season either, are they? And St Mirren smashed them on the weekend there at Easter Road, so don't hold out much hope for that. But you just never know if their fans see that we're atop of the league with a game in hand, and they have a difficult away game to go to in Edinburgh. That's the panic stations. That's when the old sharks get brought out there and the railings, and everything goes a little bit awry. So long may that continue, if that's indeed actually what happens this week. On the negatives front, really not a lot of negatives other than the Liam Balogun injury, and it looks like, I think he's going to see a surgeon today or tomorrow, and they're thinking it might be a fractured cheekbone or some other facial fracture there as well. So that's a downer, because we were just having this fluidity almost in defence of being able to kind of swap 1 or 2 players out and just do what needed to be done for each of the games. And so to have someone of his stature, and he's had a really good season for us, especially since Philippe Clement has come in, that's a bit of a blow. It's too bad. And if I was being a wee bit nitpicky, I wouldn't have minded some more goals. I know we hit the bar, and their goalie had a couple of great saves and such. It would have just been nice to have made it 4 or 5 or something like that. Then we go level in goal difference with a game in hand. Obviously, if we win that game in hand, we would automatically go ahead, and goal difference is a big deal for us. We know that we've won championships on goal difference. So I'm getting a wee bit greedy, probably. 3-0 at home, clean sheet, no drama, I think is okay, isn't it? The stats tell the story of the game. 77% possession. To be dead honest, I thought it was more. I thought it was more just in the balance of play watching it at the time. And then we had 22 attempts on target with 8. 22 attempts on goal with 8 on target. I was just about to compliment myself for getting that right this week, and I didn't again. 22 attempts on goal with 8 on target to Livingston's 0 and 0. They didn't have a shot on goal, they didn't have a shot on target, and that's, as I say, that kind of sums up their season. But compliments to Rangers for doing what we had to do in a game that is never easy, as I say, against Livingston. On the referee watch, I think John Beaton did okay. No bookings in the game, which was quite interesting. Nothing I can remember being too off or too out of sorts with his performance, so he'll get the standard 7 out of 10. He did his job as far as I can remember. And then going on to this week, we have two very, very important games this week. One in the league, of course, and one in the Scottish Cup. And the first one is against Aberdeen tomorrow. That's Tuesday the 6th of February, and that's a 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 8 p.m. in the UK, so decent enough kickoff time for us there. And as you'll have seen in the papers today or online, is that Neil Warnock is their new interim manager until the end of the season. I first heard that mooted last week, and I thought that was odd. He has been touting himself for a job in Scotland. I know he's a Rangers fan. My understanding is he was one of the ones that was being seriously considered when we brought Steven Gerrard in back in 2018, and it was either go for the old wise head or go for someone a bit younger and support him, with experience around him, which is the Gary McAllister factor that we had, and we what happened, what direction we went in. But fair enough. I don't know how I would feel if Rangers appointed a 75-year-old manager this is his 17th club. He's a character. He'll be good for the game up here, I'm sure, but I don't care about Neil Warnock, and I care even less about Aberdeen, and I just want to make sure that we give them a bit of a doing, because as you know, we haven't done the best against Aberdeen this last wee while. Of course, they come off the back of a very good result against the mob from the East End, and we had, what did we have? 1-0, I believe we beat them back in December there, a goal from James Tavernier, and then we had a 1-1 draw at Pittodrie in late November, but that was courtesy of a 94th minute equaliser from James Tavernier as well. He's been the main man against Aberdeen, it would appear. And then the beginning of the revolution essentially happened in a 3-1 defeat at Ibrox from them back in September, and what was Michael Beale's last game in charge, if I remember correctly. We don't want a repeat of that. They have taken 4 points off of us this season. So if it weren't for Aberdeen, if we played against and got results against Aberdeen that we typically usually enjoy, we would be top of the league right now with a game in hand. Then we would be absolutely flying, and we would be loving life. So this is not a gimme, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. And we just need to show up and listen to the manager, do our jobs, and then hopefully put one over on them and Neil Warnock at the same time. And the second game is on Saturday, and that's the 10th of February, of course, and that's a 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 5:30 p.m. in the UK, and we're at home to Ayr United. And not a lot to say about Ayr United. Mid-table in the Championship, seem to be going okay, but they're managed by our old enemy, Mr. Scott Brown, and I'm only going to mention that just as a bit of a fun factor. Other than that, he's nothing to us. He's a clown, actually, and has always been a clown, and has got away with absolutely murder through his entire career with that mob in the East End. So here's hoping that Philippe Clement just completely ignores the guy and just puts absolutely one over on him and get some good goals going there. Give us an opportunity to progress in our quadruple bid for this season. From an RTV issues perspective, we still seem to encounter some challenges with Vancouver downtown, and I'm not 100% sure what's happening there. Got an email on the weekend saying they're trying to access the game and it wasn't working. RTV got back to say, we see all these successful login attempts, we see the activity you were doing when you logged in. So it seemed like there was a bit of an impasse there where they weren't 100% sure what each of them were supposed to be doing. So we'll need to try and get that figured out for this week, because these guys are doing their very best to try and provide a good experience for the visitors, and it just doesn't seem to be working out. So a little bit more work to be done there, it would appear. I don't know if it's an education thing, I don't know if it's a technical thing that we just can't seem to quite align on. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll get that organised as quickly as we can for the boys and girls over there. On the shout-outs for this week, so one of the glaring omissions from last week that you might have noticed was that I didn't mention at all, not even a tiny bit, Stephen Davis's retirement from playing football. And the reason I didn't is because I completely forgot. That's literally the truth. I just forgot. And what I typically do is I'll go and look at the Rangers website, I'll go look at maybe Sky Sports or something, in case there's anything topical that comes up just at the 11th hour, and then I'll put it in there. But such is the thirst for news on the Rangers website that he was already on page 2, maybe even page 3 by that time, because of all the other entertainment information that was provided on the website, so it just went completely out of my head. So apologies, Stephen Davis. I'm sure he's an avid listener to this pod, and he was quite disappointed, or at least mildly surprised, by my omission last week. But one of the best that we've had, quite frankly, you know, obviously former captain, 2 spells with us, 4 league championships, 3 league cups, 3 Scottish cups, a couple of European finals, the most capped British player in history. And I think we've said this a couple of times in the past, but if this guy was like Spanish or Brazilian or Italian or German or something like that, we would be going wild about how mentally good he is. I don't mean mentally, like how it's mental how good he is really what I'm trying to say. You know, he's been a fantastic player. He was brilliant every time he pulled on the blue jersey and went and played for us. And he was just one of these consistent 8 or 9 out of 10 every single week. And if he had just came in as this cultured guy, we would be lauding this guy, you know, and just, you know, thanking our lucky stars that we managed to lure him to Scotland, and we get an opportunity to watch Genius and Progress and all the other plaudits that you could put on him as well. And I say that now, obviously, with a little bit of hindsight, because he's no longer going to play again, play for us again for sure, and that's too bad for him. But you know, it's a fantastic achievement to be able to look back in a career that includes some of the highlights that I just mentioned there. So thank you very, very much to Stephen Davis, and congratulations on everything that you've done for us. And hopefully this is not your end at Rangers, and there's some sort of role that we can maybe try and find for you, because a fantastic ambassador for the club as well. And as soon as the retirement came out, I started to get messages saying he would be a great guest at NARSA. He would be a great guest at NARSA. I 100% agree. I think that would be a good thing, and he would add a bit of gravitas, a bit of class to the event as well. So we'll see if we can make that happen. And no guarantees, of course. It's really up to the player at the end of the day. Also, a shout out to Philippe Clement, who was awarded today with his first Manager of the Month, and that was for January, where we won all 4 games in January, so, and only conceded a couple of goals in the process. So, I mean, this is all the more poignant for me personally when you look at some of our dodgy records of how we've returned after a winter break. So to win all the games, score 11 goals, concede only 2, make progress on the areas that we needed to make progress on in the league and the cup, and put ourselves in a better, stronger position, literally a better position at the same time, is fantastic. Very, very impressive, as I say, after some very, very lacklustre returns, you know, after the winter break. So congratulations, well done, well deserved to Philippe Clement on that. I also have a shout out for a new listener. Remember a couple of weeks ago, wait till I tell you about that as well. A couple of weeks ago, I put a challenge to everyone saying, can you please share this with one person, and we'll just expand the reach and the global family of the NARSA Weekly Update. I did mention my lovely niece last week had shared it with me, the guy who writes and records and produces it. That isn't really what I meant, but here's the kicker. On Friday, when we were over there, she says, yeah, I didn't get a shout out. Didn't get a shout out on the pod for doing that pass over to another person. And I says, you didn't finish listening to the pod then? I did. I've only got 50 seconds to go. Okay, go listen to the last 50 seconds, Chloe. And lo and behold, she gets the mention that she was digging me up for. Oh, mega clamped. I just love those moments. But anyway, we have a new listener, and it's through a friend. It's a friend of a friend, and it's Derek Lyon, and he's a listener back home in Scotland, and my understanding is that he listens at the gym every Tuesday morning. So firstly, congratulations for being so dedicated and hitting the gym every single Tuesday morning, and secondly, more importantly, welcome aboard, Derek. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks very much for listening, and please do share it with whomever you think might be interested as well. Welcome aboard, Derek. Great to have you here. And just another shout out on the women's team. Absolutely going great guns this season, aren't they? Another, and I'm going to say another because it seems like they do this quite a lot, another resounding 9-0 victory over Dundee United, this time in the Scottish Cup. Actually, the draw for the Scottish Cup was supposed to be today, but I didn't see anything, so forgive me, I won't be able to tell you who they've drawn against in the next round. But another fantastic clean sheet, and getting 9 goals in any game is an incredible achievement. Too. So good for them, and good for them for doing that. And that will do it on that. On the convention update, I had a wee bit of activity last week, so I did say last week that we had communicated with both of the hotels, and we're looking to be in a position to move forward to obtaining draft contracts, essentially, so that we'll be able to look at both and see in and of themselves what the better option for us is. And we have done that, certainly with one of the hotels. But we had an interesting conversation after the unfortunately aborted winter meeting, the general meeting that we had. And it was just interesting in terms of location, in terms of logistics of what we're going to get, should we go to these properties. So we have some admin that we're going to follow through on for this week, and we'll get the draft contracts. That's just a logical next step that we get to anyway. And then we'll get a review of those, and then we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, some interesting insights. So, not having the meeting was very, very disappointing, of course, but having the opportunity to have a bit more of an open conversation, more dedicated to the convention that is 2025 was a bit of a bonus. There's always some good that comes from every situation. Just a reminder for our friends down in RSEA and the Sunshine Coast Ranger Supporters Club in Queensland, Australia, who are hosting their convention now this month. So that's how quickly it comes up, and so good luck to Billy Brownlee and all the boys and girls over there. I'm sure they're going to do a great job. I will continue to leave up the website details on the blurb for the pod for this week if you're interested in going along, taking a peek at that, or at least even just supporting the fundraising efforts. I'm sure that would be absolutely appreciated. And of course they are hosting that February 29th to March the 3rd. So good luck. These last few weeks, Billy, they go by very, very, very quickly, and before you know it, you're standing in the entrance of the hotel saying, I guess it's time, so good luck to you. I'm sure it will go great. On the other business, I did mention it there, a bit of a sneak peek. We did not have a quorum for our meeting to be held immediately after the game on the weekend there. We had most of the NARSA executive, and then we had 2 other clubs represented. We had Orlando, we had Cambridge, and that was not enough, and quite disappointing. I think I take full responsibility for this one. We have a constitutional obligation to get the information out into the club's hands a little bit earlier than we did. I had mentioned that a couple of times on the pods over the last couple of weeks, but notwithstanding that information not being passed on to the clubs until the week of the event, we've been talking about it for quite some time. There's been chatter about it on the WhatsApp group chat as well, and we just still didn't seem to get any interest, and certainly we didn't get any administrative criteria met that we were able to actually host the meeting. The disappointing thing here is, one, we are genuinely looking for participation, for ideas, for dialogue, for conversation, for just interaction, to continue to build and maintain the community here. And secondly, it takes us a lot of work to put these events together. Everybody has their reports that they're ready to go ahead with. Everybody is ready, with an opportunity to be able to serve and do what we need. And when no one shows up, that's a little bit of a custard pie in the face to us. I did mention before that for whatever reason, the winter-spring meetings are always very, very poorly attended. This one being on Zoom, I thought we would have at least had a few folks there to be able to officially have the meeting and go through the agenda that we had worked very hard to put together, in terms of our finances, in terms of the convention updates, in terms of the communication updates and the RTV updates and such. And it kind of feels like a waste, bit disappointing, but every cloud has a silver lining and all that, and as I mentioned, we did get an opportunity to have a bit more of an in-depth, frank conversation about the convention for next year, and a wee bit more food for thought for us to figure out what's going to be best in terms of serving our guests for the convention. So for next time, we will get the information out there earlier. Again, 100% accountability on me for that, and then hopefully at the AGM. Of course, we won't be having the AGM at a location. I don't think that was another thing we were going to be talking about do we want to organise anything in the summer? No one's there, so we didn't really have that conversation. And so just a waste of time, literally a waste of time, and I don't like wasting my time. So we'll get better at that for next time, and we'll make sure that everyone has the absolute notice that they need to be able to come and support their association. On the communication front for this week, the Gers guide. For today, we have the Inside Ibrox, which will chronicle the the Livingston game, we did have the Aberdeen press conference. I would urge you to go to YouTube and see what that was. Fabio Silva and Philippe Clement, I think it was today. And then there's highlights of the women's 9-0 victory on yesterday, and the Scottish Cup draw. Again, I'm recording right now, it literally just went on to 11 a.m. and maybe the draw hasn't been made yet. And then tomorrow, of course, we have the Rangers Aberdeen game, and then we have new signing Mohamed Diomande in an interview on Rangers TV. Wednesday we have, I don't mention everything on a Gers guide, but this one's a big deal because it's an Old Firm game, and it's Rangers B in, I believe they're at Celtic B team in the Glasgow Cup. So that's a 2 p.m. UK kick-off tomorrow, so that's going to be 9 Eastern time, something like that, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then also we have Rangers versus Hearts in the Women's Scottish Premiership, and that's a 7:45 p.m. UK kick-off time, so 2:45 Eastern. Not so much going on Thursday. Friday, the press conference for the Ayr United game. Saturday, of course, the Ayr United game, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kick-off, and then follow inside the series that chronicles the women's team. An episode of that drops as well. And then on Sunday, the women's team are in action again away to Partick Thistle at Petershill Park. That's a 1 p.m. UK kick-off time as they close in, hopefully, on the championship here. Another thing I was remiss to not to mention last week is the Rangers Youth Development Company made another donation in the hundreds of thousands of pounds to the Rangers, the Rangers Academy. You know, where they put the money in. That's £11 million since 2002 that they have donated to the Rangers Youth Development Company. Just incredible work that Colin Stewart and the team over there are doing, and just it's all the proceeds, all the profits from the lottos and the game day raffles and such, whatever the fundraising stuff that goes into that. So just an incredible amount of money, £400,000, taking it to over 11 million since 2002. You can't argue with that. So congratulations to Colin and the whole team for that. We also had a reach out. I was going to talk about this at the meeting on Saturday, but didn't get an opportunity to do so, from Tom Clark, the secretary of the Rangers Supporters Erskine Appeal. And he had said, I'm going to actually read this out here if you don't mind. Hi Gary, on the 18th of March this year, former Rangers star Ian McMillan will be 93 years of age. He is currently the oldest living Ranger. I wonder if you could email the various secretaries of RSEs connected to NARSA and ask them to send a birthday card to Ian from their respective clubs. Please ask folk to post to Ian McMillan, care of RSEA, Fundraising Department, the Erskine Home, Bishopton, Renfrewshire, PA75PU, Scotland. He says also, he went on to say that he doesn't keep in great health, but they are going to do some nice stuff for him come birthday time as well. So we have about 6 weeks to get organised with this, folks, and I would put a challenge out to everyone. I'll put the address in the blurb for tonight's pod, and hopefully you'll get an opportunity to just pop him a quick note and say, from Orlando Rangers Supporters Club. We'll certainly do one from Calgary Rangers Supporters Club. We'll do one from NARSA as well, and get that over to him. And my understanding is he has some dementia challenges as well. So this is important for him and for us to really give the accolades to the oldest living Ranger there. So let's do that if we can. That's a challenge to everyone to get that organised. And as I say, you have plenty of time, so I'm going to keep mentioning that over the next wee while. Another quick reminder for the NARCO, the North American Rangers Curry Organisation, and Andy Burnett and team are organising their 6th annual Curry Weekend in Tempe, Arizona, and that's going to be, 2 weeks from now, and that's the President's Day weekend down there, Family Day weekend here in Alberta. So I'll mention it again. I'll leave the information on the blurb for the pod, and I'll also mention it again next week if you're looking for some sunshine and some beers and absolutely no doubt some hilarity. You'll be well entertained down in Arizona. And the last one is, again, going to speak about this at the meeting, but we didn't get an opportunity. We have David Holmes, who's willing to have an engagement with us of some description. I was looking to try and see, to get some dialogue from the membership to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to get on a collective Zoom call with him, and we could just ask our own questions and listen to his stories? Or did you want me to do something more direct with him, gather the questions, and then do an interview type thing with him, and then get the opportunity to get that released? With the fact that we didn't have anybody, almost anybody, show up apart from Walter and Colin on the weekend there, then I don't feel confident at all that it wouldn't be anything other than a slight embarrassment if we were to organise a Zoom call and then just have 6 or 7 people on it. So I think we'll go down a different path on that. I do want to support him. I do want to support the book. I'm really looking forward to getting and reading the book, to be really honest. So I'll reach out to Lynn, David's daughter, and see what the best idea is to get organised. But I think I'll maybe just do something over Zoom, or record it audio style, and then we'll get that published and see where we take it from there. I think that's probably the best course of action to kind of strike while the iron's hot. They're kind of waiting for us to get back to them, so we'll do that. Okie dokie, my friends, that will do it for this week. As always, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to listen, and please do pass it on to anyone that you think will enjoy it. And until next week, here's to just continuing to do what we're doing. Going above them in a table tomorrow would be very, very material for us. I'd love to see that, even if it's only for a day. There's just something poignant about that, isn't there? Something very particular about that, and I hope to see that. If not, that's okay too. But that's my hope and my desire. And of course, we want to be looking at who we're going to get in the next round of the Scottish Cup by doing exactly what we need to do on Saturday too. So until next week, folks, please do take care of yourself, and until then, all the very best. Cheerio.